Hello and welcome to the Real Estate Regroup Show. I am your host, LJ Walker. I'm here to talk to you today again about Tito Jackson. It's his birthday, October 15th, and there were things that I feel like people aren't making the connection, and I wanted to just add to that, as well as focus on uh, some real estate transactions that he made that is similar, or some other similarities rather, between me and myself and him. Okay, so first and foremost, I wanted to say this, that, even though we might say, oh, this is small and insignificant, but if you really think about it, when Tito Jackson broke the strings of his father's guitar, that was actually the start of a revolution. Because, see, the Jackson family, let's face it, it wasn't just their musical legacy that they left behind, they made a cultural impact. Remember, when Tito was born back in 1953, there was the civil rights movement, right? Well, actually, a little later on, there was a civil rights movement, more so in the 60s than in the 50s, even though in the 50s, you still have a few people that were making strides, but black people on a whole, we were seen as lesser than. And I know some people still see us that way, but it was a lot more back then than it is now. But the Jackson Five, okay, they were so universally appealing that they were able to cut across racial lines and gender, transcend gender, and everything else like that. Their image also was more polished. Now, granted, if you look at what they wore back then, you might not necessarily want to wear it right now, okay? But you have to admit, whether you like the clothes or not, they were quite polished. And they were also well groomed, relatable, outside of just having this enormous talent. Okay, and like I mentioned before, Tito is a child prodigy. He listened to the music on the radio and he was playing it like he was like part of the band. At, I think he was, what, 8 years old at the time. With, you're talking about, this kid had no lessons, no musical lessons, just listen and just play. Not too many people can do that. you know Not too many people can do that. Anyway, I feel as though it sort of avalanched. In Christianity, there's a scripture that says your sorry, your talent, your gift will make room for you. All right. But in this case, his gift made room for many. Okay. And then you have to think about also the fact that the music, if you listen to the messages of the songs from back then, and by the way, some of the songs were actually written by Tito Jackson. Let's not forget that. Okay. Um, those songs had meaning to it, gave a sense of self-worth and empowerment, love, of course, which is like the strongest of them all. They also address, inequality in race and social justice and things like that. You know, they dominated the charts with this type of music that impacted both black children, white children, and everybody else in between. You see what I'm saying? So we can't close our eyes to something like that. The other thing, too, that I wanted to mention is that is really, really big, and I don't think too many people caught it or caught onto it. And that is that statue in Germany that he visited 3 days before he died. You see, the reason why that is significant is because in 1933, 20 years before he was born, there was a man named Jesse Owens, a black American who won 4 Olympic gold medals in Berlin at the Olympics. Who was in charge of Germany at that time? Hitler. Hitler refused to shake that man's hand. As a matter of fact, he was so mad, he didn't shake any American person's hand. He didn't congratulate any man. He was so furious because his thing was that the Aryan race is the superior race. And we black people are at the bottom. Okay? The very, 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 very bottom. Subpar. Another thing, too, that people don't, maybe they didn't put 2 and 2 together, but those concentration camps had Jews, Indians, and black people in them. Black people in Germany, granted, there wasn't as many as black people here in America, but they also faced housing discrimination just like black Americans faced housing discrimination. They also were illegally arrested just like black Americans were illegally arrested. Okay, so they weren't treated well at all. So for now, in 2024, before they even have the fact that they even have a Michael Jackson fan club, a Jackson fan club, the fact that they even have that is significant by itself. But to dedicate, it's like a statue or shrine plaque. I don't really know how to describe it, but anyway, it's pretty. I like it. It's beautiful. But for them to even have anything for a black family, commemorating a black family, where you have neo-Nazis and skinheads, that's like their home, that's saying something. That is saying something. And that to me says God is real. Not to say, honestly, don't get it twisted, I don't really feel like I need to be accepted by anybody or I need to be approved by anybody. My self-esteem may not necessarily always be the highest, but it's high enough to know that I am God's child and I know the gifts that he put into me, okay? And I don't need nobody else to say, oh, you did this, you did that. I already know. But it is nice to be appreciated. And it is nice for me when I see my brothers and sisters being appreciated, even if I am not the one that's being appreciated, because I see the way I am is that when one of us wins, we all win. That's how I see it. So I don't really have like a jealous spirit like that. It's not necessary. I'm good at what I do. You good at what you do. And that's it. And we move on. And that's exactly what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to step off of the podium for a little bit. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about real estate when it comes to Tito. Okay. Now, one of the similarities that kind of struck me is, as you guys know, when he died going from New Mexico to his home in Claremont, Oklahoma. It's not that close to Tulsa, but it's near Tulsa. So I found out, why he chose Oklahoma. He said that it was because he had a forefather relative whose name was Samuel Jackson also. He's related, as you guys know, he's also, I believe, a distant cousin to actor Samuel Jackson, but there was another Samuel Jackson in the family who represented the people in Tulsa, Oklahoma during the riots. And I mentioned to you that many of them, they lost everything. The insurance companies would not cover them because although the whole place caught a fire and they had fire insurance, the fire was caused by a riot and they didn't have riot insurance. And even in today's world, guess what? If there's a riot and you don't have riot insurance, they're not going to cover you. If your house burns down and the fire was caused by people rioting in the streets or what have you, no, you yourself also won't be covered. That's an additional extra. Okay, well, some of you. So definitely call your home insurance companies and make sure that this is the case. And by the way, if you're a tenant, don't think that you shouldn't get tenant insurance, because you should. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, so here's the similarity. Wait for it. Yes, I have a property in Oklahoma too, but it's in Oklahoma City, not Tulsa. All right. Claremont is a little closer to Tulsa. It's like on the outskirts, right? Well, not so much the outskirts, but it's not a far drive. Put it that way. Anyway, he mentioned that he wanted to set up roots there because of his forefather. And then also because he likes horses and fishing, and that town has a lot of that where he situated himself. Okay. Outside of the fact that I have the property in Oklahoma City, I also was trying to buy land as well, but I kept getting outbidded, and then I also had an issue with one of the sellers who was a little fishy. Anyway, what I did notice, I think Oklahoma might be a hidden market because, especially when it comes onto land, a lot of foreigners are buying up land in Oklahoma. And a lot of the cities in Oklahoma are expanding, which is probably why people are trying to buy up as much land as they possibly can. But the thing is, the Native American Indians, they're being squeezed out. So the land that was set up for them as like their reservation, some of that is being taken away. So that's kind of negative. But I wanted to point that out to show you guys that, listen, gentrification is not only against Black people. Gentrification, from what I'm seeing, it's all over the world, and it's really more against socioeconomics. So it's a classism issue more so than a racism issue. It's just that most of us who are minorities, when it comes to class, we're at the bottom, financially. So I wanted to definitely point that out. But that's like a hidden market. Like, you see, that is something that you don't see too many real estate papers, magazines or whatever. They're not talking about it. But they will talk about it later. They always talk about it after the fact, after it's too late and the prices are already gone sky high. That's what I noticed that these real estate media outlets do, a lot of them. Okay. But yeah, that's one thing, that we both have property there. We're both Libras. Only, I'm October 13, he's 15, I'm 71, he's 53. Okay, cool. Now, and I just realized he was born 1953, and I'm going to be 53 October 13 of this year. Okay, what's the other thing? Okay, as I mentioned to you before, he talked about the relative that he had that was involved with the Tulsa riots, helping the people during that time who lived in Tulsa. Guess what? So I met a guy who's now one of my associates. He's a lawyer. And when I say associate, I mean someone who may develop into being more of a friend. Not that we do business together so much. Anyway, he actually represents the surviving Tulsa massacred victims. He was trying to get reparations. Well, it was 3 people, now it's only 2. But yeah, he was trying to get reparations for them. He was one of the lawyers on that team. Unfortunately, things did not turn out the way we would like for it to turn out. But yes, that is the case. I mean, they're 109 and 100, and I think the other one is 110. So I'm not sure if they're going to keep on with the court system. But I wanted to also share this with you, is that I found out that, the Supreme Court judges in Oklahoma, they're appointed by the governor of Oklahoma. So guys, what does that mean? That means that those of you from Oklahoma, you got to go out and you need to really check who you're voting for governor. I notice a lot of people come out for president, but when it comes to mayor and governor, people don't come out that much. You got to come out because, see, this is what happens. I mean, how long are they really going to live? They're already 110, 109. The government should have given them something. If anything, like I mentioned in the other video, they should have at least said, okay, we're not going to let you pay taxes. Do something, not nothing at all. I think it's really a shame that things turned out the way it turned out, and they couldn't even see it in their heart to say, all right, these people are, over 100 years old. Let's do something. All right. But guess what, guys? Guess what state? You might say that might be a ridiculous answer or whatever. But the senators in my state, the one in my community, is pushing a bill so that senior citizens don't have to pay property tax. How you like them apples? Now, but that is not really, to be honest, she's not doing that for reparations per se. She's actually doing that more so because New York is expensive, number one. Number two, many Black people in New York City are leaving the city and they're going, to different states where it's a lot cheaper. And so when they go and leave, those are her voters. So that's really the main reason why she's doing what she's doing. But in a way, those of you who live in Oklahoma, you can use that as a hint. You can say, hey, you know what? You guys, you didn't pass the reparations bill. You're not giving them free tax at least, or you're not doing nothing for these people. You know what? What if we all picked up and left and lived in another state? Or what if we just don't vote for you anymore? You will be surprised how quickly things will change when you withhold money and withhold votes from a politician. I'm just saying. So guys, yes, those are the things that I was like, oh wow, okay. I was at first going to do the video earlier, but then I said, no, his birthday is coming up. Let me leave this for him. So yes, that's all, pretty much all I have. I'm sorry I was jumping all over the place, but I'm like, when I heard when I learned the different things about Tito and how we are similar in many other ways, I got really excited. So I apologize, but I hope you still got something out of it. I hope you still learned something, learned about your history, learned about the government, learned a little bit about real estate in between. And listen, feel free to pass this amongst your friends, share this out, like, comment, and subscribe. Okay, and uh, until next time, guys, have a good night.